Welcome to Adam's Athenaeum. Let's take a look together through the news and records of our times as we try to shed light upon the unvarnished truth. Thanks for coming back to this episode where I've got a lot of questions and I want to ask, do you regret voting for Joe Biden yet? Let's start off with what's most noticeable. Well, beginning before Biden even became president, he promised to end the oil and gas industries, and he has. Now everyone's freaking out about gas being over $5 a gallon most places. I mean, the average cost of gas has risen by about $2 nationwide. But he told you he was going to do this. He told you he was going to cause this, and you voted him in. Maybe not you specifically, but in general, to the people that voted him in, you knew this. You knew he wanted to wreck the oil and gas industry, which would mean that prices would go up due to the nature of supply and demand. Yet you voted him in. Well, Biden, by executive orders, the natural oil and gas pipeline industry by killing the Keystone XL pipeline deal, along with others, yet allowed Russia to complete their own pipeline, which gives Russia oil from European countries. I remember when everyone was freaking out about Trump wanting to spend $5 to $10 billion to finish our border wall with Mexico, and everyone lost their minds. Biden has spent somewhere between, depending on the news reports, anywhere from $40 billion to $60 billion to a nation who isn't even a formal ally and who experts predict will lose this war. It's just a matter of time, they say. Trump said Rosie O'Donnell was fat, and Joe Biden says things like "true banana shubita pressure," then falls upstairs or off of a stopped bicycle. In 13 months under Trump, not one U.S. soldier lost their life to combat in Afghanistan. In one day, under Biden, we lost 13 U.S. service members as Biden signaled defeat in Afghanistan. Biden says responsible gun owners are to blame for mass shootings and that we should lock up our guns. Yet, this clown left behind billions of dollars worth of ammunition, body armor, night vision goggles, weapons, and vehicles, along with a ton of other military equipment. He left that all behind in Afghanistan with no plan to rescue or destroy our equipment. And Joe Biden left our military equipment for the Taliban to have. Joe Biden is illegally using the Air Force and airlines such as Frontier, Spirit, and others to transport illegal migrants all across the country in the dead of night. Joe Biden says the genocide taking place in China is just China trying to enforce cultural norms, and that it's not his place to tell Xi Jinping how to run his country. Trump made peace deals left and right in the Middle East. He was even the first president to ever walk across the demilitarized zone into North Korea. He walked across that line without any security, shook hands with Kim Jong-un, and came back. That's amazing. Biden, on the other hand, has made enemies and now tries to buy oil from our enemies. Biden repeatedly says the Second Amendment is not absolute. Excuse me, you godforsaken democratic socialist, but the Constitution is absolute, and the authority of its doctrine comes from God, who you supposedly believe in, but you show no actual faith, sir. The authority of its doctrine comes from God and not an incompetent racist in the White House. Joe Biden is and always has been a racist, especially towards Black people. Look it up. In his days in Congress, Joe Biden used the N-word at least 13 different times, with a hard ER at the end. He didn't say it with an A at the end to make it like a friendly term of endearment. No, he said it, sounded very racist when he said it every single time. He even told Black Americans that If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Meaning that the assumption is that black people just automatically vote for Democrats. Well, you're kind of making a presumption about an entire race that's kind of racism. Just saying. Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden screamed about illegal migrant children being held in cages after they crossed our border. Well, Nancy likes to push little Hispanic girls out of pictures from being taken with her. And neither of them mentioned that it was Joe and Obama who built the cages or detention centers to begin with. The transgender agenda, to include indoctrinating your kids with gay and LGBT scenes and characters in movies and TV shows and books, is abhorrent. Drag queens invite parents to bring children to a gay bar where children tipped drag queens. Netflix made a movie called Cuties, in which little girls dance extremely provocatively in an adult manner. They say this to shine light about how something to the effect of like, it's bad for society to treat girls this way or something. However, think about this. They actually had underage children in these outfits around adults filming them. And then that was put out to millions of people. I'm not buying what they're selling. The left is pushing for the acceptance of MAPs, M-A-P, or minor attracted person. Don't believe any of their bullshit. It isn't the left. It's the left. They're trying to excuse and allow pedophilia. The left uses Antifa and Black Lives Matter to push their violent Marxist agenda in the streets, to murder cops and assault local citizens and shops. They are effectively the modern day brown shirts, the Nazi brown shirts, who would go around destroying Jewish places of business and homes. The left targets political opponents and uses the power of the state to harass, dox, and violate the rights of journalists and citizens, such as James O'Keefe. Under Joe Biden, police departments locked up citizens who dared to open their places of business or worship, yet did nothing when rioters without masks burned down cities. Inflation, stagflation, shrinkflation, the job crisis, the wage crisis, border crisis, food crisis, trucker crisis, baby formula crisis, mental health crisis, gas crisis, supply chain crisis, unemployment crisis, homelessness crisis, meat crisis, crops crisis, fertilizer crisis. Wow, all of that under Joe Biden. I haven't seen that in my entire life. All of that is ridiculous. Now, Biden says gas prices will stay high as long as the war continues in Ukraine. And yet, he continues to fund the war in Ukraine. So does the Biden regime really want us to have lower gas prices? The Biden regime intends to force us away from fossil fuel at an unrealistic pace and instantly switch everything in our lives to electric or battery operated. One problem with that is that our energy grid is already almost overwhelmed. As it stands right now, the Department of Energy is expecting rolling brownouts and blackouts across the US this summer due to our usage and demand of the grid. If we stop using fossil fuels immediately and run everything else off the grid, how are we not going to blow the grid? Then nobody has power. Nobody can charge their $50,000 electric vehicle or charge their crack phone. It's not a smartphone. It's not even a phone. It's something way beyond that you hold in your hand. It's like having the power of crack in your hand. Biden wants to phase out most common air conditioning refrigerants due to his global warming policies. Yet he has nothing to replace the current refrigerant with, and no units that can be swapped out with current units. Meaning, very soon, potentially in 5 to 10 years, unless a miracle is figured out, you won't have air conditioning in your house, home, or apartment, thanks to Biden's green initiatives. There's literally hundreds of pictures and videos and personal accounts of Joe Biden touching little girls inappropriately and smelling their hair and necks. But nobody says a fucking word because apparently perverts should be defended in today's day and age. Biden obviously has declined mentally. He is suffering from something which is probably Alzheimer's or dementia related. But hey, YouTube, I'm not a doctor. I'm not accusing him or stating that he has a mental condition. I can't prove it. However, if you have any sense about you, you can see. Look at him from 1979. Look at him now. He's not the same person cognitively. His entire regime is incompetent and must be replaced. Now, I've seen trending on Twitter, #impeach Biden. Yeah, that's a great emotional reaction to being pissed off at Biden, but let's think that through. Okay, we replace Biden. Who then fills his seat? We're stuck with Kamala Harris, whose nickname is Heels Up Harris. Do you know why she got that nickname, folks? Because she slept her way up through police and law departments to get to the position that she's at. She cackles like a wicked witch of the West. She can't even form a coherent sentence when she's talking to the press and public about matters of import. She hasn't actually been to the southern border, which she's the czar of under this Biden regime. So we're left with a cackling, bumbling witch who's not even as competent as Biden is. And that's saying something. Okay, so then we have to impeach her. Great, now we're stuck with crazy Nancy Pelosi, who is also falling off her rocker and losing her marbles. And just can't stop talking real crazy and energetic like. And she makes no good sense. And then she stops and freezes and she says, "Good morning." Go find that interview. These are the leaders of our country. There's no point in impeaching one, then the other, then the other. The list, it gets worse and worse as we run down the list. Now, I'm not saying it's time to overthrow the government. I'm not calling for that. We have the right to, don't get me wrong. I can't quite prove that you become tyrannical yet. So do you regret voting for Biden yet? Was it really worth voting out the orange man because he used some bad words? Words that all of you on Twitter have used at some point or another? Was it worth it to simply cast your vote against someone instead of standing behind someone who held and actuated your ideals? Not even halfway through this presidency, and this country is destroyed and unrecognizable from what its former glory was. You're spending hundreds of dollars more at the gas station, hundreds of dollars more at the pump each month. The price of everything keeps going up. There's not even a real dollar store anymore. It's the $1.25 store. Pedophilia, transgender, gay is being pushed. Wokeism, culture war, Ukraine, Russia. I've said it in many of my videos, folks. We're sick. America is sick. And we need help. We need to fix ourselves. Too many people are lazy, entitled. They can't even think for themselves, fend for themselves. Let me give you an example. You don't have air conditioning in your apartment, so you call maintenance. Well, maintenance will be there as soon as they can because no AC is an emergency. However, you may not be the only AC they're working on. They may have 10 more emergencies before yours. Now, you're upset because your apartment's getting warm. And so you come out to the maintenance crew and you start bitching. And you complain about how it's only going to get hotter out. And how you called this in X amount of time ago, and how it needs to be fixed immediately. You want to know something? You can go out to Walmart They're open 24/7. And you know what they sell? They sell fans. They sell window air conditioning units. They sell cooling towers. So rather than bitching and whining, complaining and moaning to someone who is trying to take care of your problem, but let's realize you are not the only person in the world, instead of being an adult, figuring out how to handle the situation by yourself like an adult, and figure out what you need and how to do it, you complain that it's someone else's fault. You complain that you got in a car accident when you were texting and driving. I'm tired of the excuses. I'm tired of hearing the excuses for Biden. I'm tired of hearing the excuses for his regime. I'm tired of being lied to by him, his press secretary, by the news, CNN, ABC, CBS, all of them. Tired of being lied to every single day when I turn on the news, when I read the news, when I hear the news. Being lied to every single day by politicians and people who say they've earned my vote. You ain't earned shit. You already lost my vote before you even had it. And now, Biden, you're losing every day. You're turning more and more Americans to wanting to vote Republican in the midterms. Except here's the problem. People are just going to vote against Democrats and against Joe Biden without looking into the history of who they're actually going to vote for. And we're going to be in the same damn situation next year. Quit. I may be wrong here, but quit being intellectually lazy. Find the time and make the time. These choices impact your life, your family's life for the next 2, 4, 8, 16 years. Look at who you're voting for. What do they say and what do they do? Do they do what they say? Or are they like Beto O'Rourke? They say, no, we're not going to come get your guns one day. And then the next day, yeah, we're going to come take all of your guns. And then the next day, no, we're not taking any of your guns. And the next day, yeah, we're coming for your AR-15s, bud. Biden told you exactly what he was going to do. He said he was going to destroy America, and he did it. Why are you upset about it? If you're upset about it, then be intellectually honest with yourself next time and look into who you're going to vote for. If you, it's kind of a joke in other states, but I'm starting to find the truth of it. If you're coming, now this is just an analytical joke, so please don't take too much offense to it. I'm not actually poking fun at all Californians here. The joke goes, if you're coming from California to another state, people will say, well, people will tell the Californian, leave your politics there. If you're coming to my state, do not vote the same way you did in California. If you intend to vote the same way you did in California, go to another leftist shithole and burn it to the ground. Quit saying you hate Democratic-run cities and then move to Republican-run cities and try to vote the same exact way. Vote for the same people. The Democratic Party ain't going to save you. Obviously, the Republican Party ain't going to save us either. They just sit on their hands and bitch and whine and complain about what the left is doing. They're nothing more than a speed bump for what the left actually wants to get done. I mean, I've said this before too. At least the left has gotten their plans done. They told you what they were going to do and they did it, whether it was constitutional, legal, or not. If they had to pass new laws to make it legal or executive orders, they did it. Republicans won't do a damn thing. Have they in the last 10, 20 years? No. Do I expect them to change all of a sudden? No. So Republicans are not the answer. Just straight voting against Joe Biden and the Democrats is not the answer. I don't care who you vote for, why you vote for them. I'm just trying to say, if we all vote independent, third party, sure, that's great. But does that person stand behind their message? Who stands behind their message? Make each individual choice on that ballot sheet matter. Make sure you know every single name, who they are, their background, and what they stand for before you go and hit that button or fill in a card choosing their name. Because voting is what's going to change this. If elections get rigged again, we have to have enough honest votes out there to overwhelm any BS that the system might throw. As I like to say here, we've got to learn how to treat people better than we treat ourselves. We haven't treated ourselves very well over the last few years, have we? We let this happen to America. So we definitely need to treat people way better than we're treating ourselves. Violence is going up. Be kind to your neighbor, to your brother, your sister, the stranger on the street, the random person on the corner asking for money. Have patience. Try to be understanding. Try to talk to people in an honest and open way. Bring peaceful dialogue to the conversation. Bring up a topic to someone. Any hot political, culture war topic. Pretty much anything is political these days. So just have a conversation with someone and something will come up. And we may not agree at the end of the conversation, but maybe we can learn from each other. I like to learn where the other side stands. I don't always agree with where they stand or why they stand there, but I respect their right to stand there. To conclude, do you regret your vote? Do you regret voting for Biden? Do you mean to change it if you regret it? I hope you do. I hope we've all learned a hard lesson. I don't want to come back to this. I don't want to vote Republicans in for 2 years and then have another Democratic socialist wave in 2024. I don't want to come back to this ever. This Democratic, socialist, green, woke, cultural agenda. I hate it. I can't stand the politicians and the bureaucrats. They've got to go. Elect them out. Vote them out. Anyway, it's been great talking to y'all. I will be posting another video tomorrow. I'm not sure what about yet. If you got any video ideas, go ahead, send them in to me, and maybe they'll make the cut, and you'll see it up tomorrow. I do post videos at least once, if not twice a week, so please subscribe so you don't miss a notification. As always, let's hash it out in the comments. If you've got data, studies, or anything to prove to me your side of the argument, I'd love to hear it. I'll see you next time, and thanks for coming.